Welcome to Stardust Stereo. I'm Parker McPhinney. I'm your host. Today's the 9th of April, year 2025. Today I'm going to speak about Neptune ingressing into Aries, which it did so on the 30th of March. It will stay in Aries until the 22nd of October. At that time it will re-enter into Pisces because it's traveling retrograde, and it will stay in Pisces until January of 2026. So we have a little spell right now between its first ingress until it goes retrograde, which will happen on July the 4th, which is extremely significant for America. Then as it's going retrograde, it will eventually re-enter Pisces at that 29 degrees on the 22nd of October. And then when it goes direct, it will reach once again Aries at 0 degrees on the 26th of January 2026. So I said that twice so that you could write that all down. So we're going to speak about this outermost planet staying in Aries for 14 years and what that might mean for the world, how you can incorporate it, and how it's really important for people who were born with the sun sign in Pisces or who have many planets in the sign of Pisces, because Neptune is the ruling planet for the zodiac sign Pisces. So their ruling planet has entered into a brand new zodiac sign, which happens to be the first one in our zodiac circle of 12 signs. And Aries rules the head. And Neptune is associated with the feet. So it's toe to head, or head to toe. So it's head to toe. This will be a very important placement also for people who are born 0 degrees Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, or Aries. Even the early degrees, so we could say 0 to 5 degrees. This will be especially important for people who are born during those times that the sun ingresses into Aries, Libra, Cancer, or Capricorn, because Neptune will be engaging with their sun, throwing an energy toward them. And this is also true if you have planets, personal planets, in those early cardinal degrees. Neptune is about spirituality, imagination. It dissolves things. So it can dissolve your idealism. It can dissolve blocks to manifesting your idealism. More often than not, it will dissolve what you need to let go of. But it does so in the same way that water washes over a rock and changes the shape of that rock. However, with Neptune in the sign of Aries, which acts fast, this dissolving and changing, or the dissolving of circumstances that you've previously known to be super stable, suddenly, overnight, in a flash, can change, because Aries does not do anything slowly. This is a great time to re-examine your spiritual life. I'm not speaking of your religious life. Spirit life is different. This will also create powerful tsunamis, new medicines for Alzheimer's and dementia, new drugs that could be useful, brain cures, awareness of how the brain works, mysteries that suddenly have a pathway open to our understanding, or those in the medical field that deal with that. It will change shoe design. We'll see more sexy shoes out there. Tap dancing will probably come back. Fancy footwork. Tap dancing that takes you to heaven. New expression in fire art. All the arts that deal with fire, blowing glass, fusing, etc. It's going to be a very hot season all over the globe. The last time that Neptune was in Aries was April the 14th, 1861 to October of that same year. Then it re-entered in February of 1862 until June of 1874. And then in October of 1874 to April of 1875. During this period of Neptune in Aries, seances were big. So there was obviously a transcendence happening within the spirit world. Spiritual photography manifested. Seances were so popular during this period that Lincoln and his wife even attended some seances at the White House. So there is a certain newness of exploration of transcendence and what happens after you leave the body. Hypnotists were big. The power of our thought and then our manifestation of that thought became prevalent. The Baha'i faith was begun. This happened in 1863. At that time, there was a broadening of thought that there are many paths to divine. The Salvation Army was begun. And this is an interesting blend of the Aries energy, which is dealing with force and military, with a spiritual planet, Neptune. So we see how that blending can happen. And it can happen again. This time around, we may see young men or young military activists suddenly deciding they don't want to go fight another war that's misrepresented to be necessary when it's really not. It can create a spiritual warrior. This time around, AI will probably play a huge influence. There was just an article in the New York Times about how AI, artificial intelligence, is being used in order to have conversations with your beloved ones who have crossed. This occurs through recreating holograms or chat boxes that can converse with the family members. Alcohol is associated with Neptune. With Neptune moving into Aries, we may have new information about how alcohol affects the brain. Also possible new awareness about our autoimmune system and issues. I expect that sculpture and fountains are going to have a certain renaissance. So we'll see fire sculptures versus water sculptures, water fountains, fire fountains. The medicinal benefits of taking steam baths and healing. And, of course, what inflammation does to our physical body. The fountain of youth may be explored anew. Our music may become more aggressive. Dance and new athletes breaking records, especially in the field of running. In July, Neptune will have a sextile with Uranus as Uranus enters into the zodiac sign of Gemini. That's new inventions that are tied to the brain. That's when I think that we really will see new possibilities between thought, word, and action. New understanding of how our thoughts actually are converted into action. So you have to be careful about what you think about constantly. In the summer and fall of 2025, Neptune will be in a sextile relationship with Pluto. Again, this repeats the theme of inventions, thinking outside the box, new awareness of transpersonal transcendence, water exploration, a new awareness of our oceans and our air, and how fires affect our oceans, which we're already learning from the Palisades fire, the volcanic ash, how it may heightened awareness of ways in which we can use volcano ash in a positive way. We might have volcanoes that start to erupt in the depth of the ocean. Certainly, submarines will be taking a new importance in global security. The military on the water will become even more important for security reasons. Now, this brings me to a very specialization area of Neptune entering Aries. Aries ruler is Mars. And Mars changes signs fairly quickly, within 5-6 weeks. So each time Mars enters a new sign, it will add a new flavor to the Neptune in Aries. So if you're an astrologer, you're going to have to take that into consideration when doing declinations in charts. And we're about to enter into a period where we're going to see, as an example of this Mars changing signs. Right now, Mars is in the sign of Cancer. So it adds a subtone to Neptune in Aries. That subtone is Cancer. Cancer is a very emotional sign. So our inclinations of dreams, impressions, the unsaid word is conditioned by our gut feeling. So if you think something, I just don't think that's going to work out. It's not necessarily based on the facts. It's based on a gut feeling. Starting the 18th of April, Mars will move into Leo. That's a very ego-centered sign. Mars loves to be in Leo. It's very headstrong. So the Neptune in Aries, the idealism, will take on the flavor of headstrong action, demanding to be proven wrong after the fact. And Mars is going to stay in Leo until the 18th of June. And there's a particular configuration at the end of April of Mars and Leo opposing Pluto and being squared by the Sun. It's called a T-square, and that's a mover shaker aspect. It also is an aspect of extreme violence. So I would encourage you the last week of April to keep your cool, use your head with your heart, and think about the highest good in your imagination, not the worst case scenario. And this would be true to handle the period from the 18th of April until approximately the 18th of June, with the combination of enthusiasm, positive thinking, what it takes to actualize your dreams, doing the footwork in association with the imagination. So it's not just about dreaming up your dream. In order to manifest it, you've also got to take specific steps in order to make sure it is actualized. Then, from that 18th of June until the 7th of August, we're going to have Mars in Virgo. So we'll have the Neptune in Aries with the subtone of Mars in Virgo perfecting the dream, going over with great finesse the details of that fancy footwork that you're going to do. Also, during this time, on the 4th of July, Neptune in Aries will turn stationary retrograde. For America, this indicates things that have been set in motion since Neptune first ingressed in Aries will mean some backtracking to something tied to our relationships with our allies, something that is reevaluated and held off. I'm sure this is going to have a lot to do with the tariffs, but I think even more specifically it will have to do with treaties, and maybe stances that have been made right now will be removed, will be changed, will go back to the way they were before. There may even be more rehiring of people that have currently been fired from government. We may realize that we need them. Maybe things were done a little too in haste. You know, Aries energy usually acts and then thinks later because it's a very impulsive sign. So we may find that some of the changes that have been instigated during this first ingress of Neptune in Aries were wishful thinking, and then when the reality hits the ground, there's more adjustment that needs to be made. And we start to see that adjustment happen in America midsummer. What I'd like to leave you with is the most important habit that you can start today, now, is positive thinking within the framework of practical doing. Staying positively practical and having some practical positive thinking in your everyday life. And if Neptune in Aries is squaring or opposing your planets or even conjuncting them, work through the problems knowing that a solution can and will be found, not from a position that it's doom and gloom. The fear factor has become so prevalent in our societies, not just America's, but across the globe, that we need to replace it with some practical positive thinking and action, and really believing that you have the confidence and the courage in your faith, developing faith that's like steel. We will also probably see water wars. And that got me thinking about how Neptune dealt with oil, and now it's in a fire sign, and how fire can spread so rapidly, but how we can also maybe perhaps develop ways in which we can create fuel from water. And of course, the other combo that I thought of is, you know what happens to your car if some water gets in the gasoline? You get bad gas in the car, man, you have a major problem. But if technology was developed in a manner in which we found that water could be used as fuel, or a way in order to separate the two, just think how fabulous that would be when we have these oil spills that happen in the ocean. If we had some technology that knew how to separate the oil from the water. And by the same token, we need to learn how to separate the negative thoughts from eroding and corroding our positive thoughts. And since Neptune entering into Aries is the fountain of youth, perhaps we will discover new secrets in ways to stay forever young. And I'm not talking about physical young, I mean spiritually young, in that innocent way. Having the innocence that anything is possible that usually accompanies a young age. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'm Parker McPhinney. This is Stardust Stereo. I'd like to thank my patrons. You know who you are. If you'd like to become a patron, you can do so on Patreon/Parker McP. And I'd like to remind you, you are made of stardust, so go shine.